and welcome to a special edition of GC360, a mayoral candidates debate. I'm Jamie Hood, representing GC360.
And I'm Stephen Walters, representing the Colonade, which is co-hosting this event along with GC360.
In the light of the upcoming election on November 7th, we are holding a live televised debate between the two candidates for mayor of Milledgeville.
Joining us is incumbent Mayor Gary Thrower and challenger Pastor Mary Parham-Copela.
Here are the ground rules for the debate. Candidates will have 1 minute to offer opening statements.
We will ask questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond and 1 minute each for a rebuttal or follow-up.
Later in the debate, we will offer each candidate the opportunity to pose a question to the other candidate.
We also want to know what our audience would like the candidates to address. Tweet us your questions at GC360 or post them on our Facebook page, facebook.com/GC360.
All right, let's get started. Mayor Thrower, you have the floor. You have 1 minute opening statement.
Thank you. Well, I'm Gary Thrower, and it's certainly been an honor to be Milledgeville's mayor for the past 2 years. You know, I got into this race because I felt like I had the leadership skills that it took to make a change in this community. I felt like over the last few years we made a positive change. Our goals have always centered around job creation, maintaining the jobs that we have, supporting our economic development efforts, both with our local development office and the Central State Hospital Redevelopment Authority. We've done a great job, I feel like, of supporting their efforts and providing the funds that they need. What I bring to you as a mayor, I think, would be an honest, forthright, and mayor with good common sense.
Mary Copeland, it's time for your opening statement.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I am Mary Parham-Copela, and I am a newcomer to the race. Got in the race because I wanted to also be able to do something great for our community. Looking at the current issues that's on the table, not diminishing our current staff and our current mayor's leadership, I just felt like I could offer a little bit more at this time and place in my life, that I could be a full-time mayor on a part-time position, continue to work to grow Milledgeville, bring in more economic development, work more closely with our economic development team, Central State Authority team, and make sure we open back up our career movement in Milledgeville.
All right, Mayor Thrower, we're going to start the first question off with you. So the water crisis, what's going on with it? What exactly is the problem? How are we going to fix it? Where are the funds going to come from?
Water crisis, which one?
True.
We've certainly been blessed with more than our share of problems with our water distribution over the last few years. What we've done to rectify the situation is bring in 3 different groups of consultants. First group came in to do a break analysis of took all of our data from the past 5-10 years and did analysis as to what sections of the lines were more in need of repair than others, and they found that it was a very random situation. There was no rhyme or reason for why there were breaks in certain areas versus other areas. You know, we had some conversation early on about the fact that some of these lines were extremely dated and old and brittle. But as y'all can remember, last January there was a major break at Georgia College, and it was a 15-year-old supply line. So the break analysis was done, found that there was no rhyme or reason for what section was more critical than others. Brought in a group that looked at all our valves did a valve assessment to locate and test everything we had to make sure that when the crews came out and thought they were shutting off a valve, that they were actually shutting it off, that the valve actually worked, if it was a right thread versus a left thread valve. And that way they would have better information and better mapping of where the valves were. Third thing we did was bring in another group that is taking a look at our water plant, and right now we're in the deep discussions. Been through about a 6-month process to look at the possibility of completely building a new water plant. The parts of this old water plant are over 100 years old, and while it still works fine and is functional, we just feel like it's time to make that move. So, since we started having these breaks, we've been extremely proactive about.
I'm sorry, we actually have to cut you off there. I'm so sorry. You get a 1-minute reply, Pastor Copeland.
All right.
About the water,
About
yes.
the water,
You can rebuttal
okay.
to that.
From what I can understand or what I've learned on the water system is that, yes, they are working and implementing plans, strategizing right now to overhaul our water system. In the same token, I think what we need to do in the interim, as well as we're strategizing on what to do, is communication, being able to communicate with the community when we do have outbreaks, breaks in the water main more efficiently, more in a timely manner, to allow them to know that this is occurring and what we're planning to do in order to be able to situate the situation with the water.
And let's start with Ms. Copeland this time. What sets you apart from your opponent, and why should voters in Milledgeville choose you as their mayor?
What sets me apart from my opponent is that we bring some of the same strengths. He's been sitting in the position now for 2.5 years, so of course he's obviously a little more abreast than I am. However, I come to the platform in the same manner that he did 2 years ago. With a lot of background as far as the political aspect, but I come with the same background that he does. I am a small business owner with real estate. I'm a former employee of the Department of Corrections. I work with the school system, still work with the transportation with Foothills, work with Baldwin County Transportation Department. So I feel as though my natural experiences are bringing a vast majority of difference to the plate that will help the community, as well as being a full-time pastor. Having been a full-time pastor, it connects me with the community a lot. So I am one that is used to being in the community, used to being a face or the voice for other people. So I want to be a servant in a different aspect now, being able to serve at the capacity for the community to help move our city forward.
And Mayor Thrower, same question to you. What do you think sets you apart from your opponent?
Well, I've got a deep 2-year experience of running the job as mayor. I told her before we started today that that she was certainly in the same position I was in 2 years ago, and they do an excellent job of orientating you on all the fine details of the city. But it's kind of like taking a sip of water from a fire hose. It's just thrown at us. But over the last couple of years, with my business background, there's been situations where that has really come in handy when we're dealing with proposals and looking at long-range strategic plans about how to move this city forward. And I've just tried to use some of my experience, apply that to what's going on with the community. I've told people that I'm a bottom line kind of guy. I don't understand totally yet how to deal with all the politics, and I don't have an affinity for the politics. Sometimes you'll find a solution, and politics will raise its hand and strike you down, and we have to start over. But I've told someone last year that being married for 30 years has really prepared me to be the mayor. You have to negotiate, I have to beg, I have to scream, just whatever it takes to get through. But
thank you, Mayor Thrower.
You take care.
All right, so we want to turn to the Confederate Monument downtown and start with Mayor Thrower this time. I'm going to read you what it says on the north side of the monument. It has these exact words. To the memory of the Confederate soldier whose fame is as imperishable as the everlasting hills, whose courage is unrivaled since the dawn of civilization, and whose name shines in the undying glory on the pages of history. In 2017, is this the message we want to present to the world? And citizens also have been discussing the possibility of a removal. Should this be talked about among the city members? And
well, I'll tell you, my position on this is that I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with anybody about how sensitive this area is, this section is. The reality is, I'm not in favor of just boldly taking down and removing our history. It is what it is. We were what we were. We've certainly learned from the past and are growing from that. But what I would do is I'd welcome a conversation with historians, local leaders, and if this situation gets to a point where it's so sensitive that we need to discuss it. We get a ton of revenue dollars every year from tourists coming in to see our antebellum history, and it's not. I've never had anybody talk to me about glorifying slavery or white supremacy and things of this nature. It's all about the Southern hospitality, the lure of the Old South. I'm one generation removed from a family that picked cotton all day. I mean, my granddaddy had 13 grandkids, not because he loved kids, he needed more help. So, we've all worked hard and learned from our past, and I'm prepared to move forward with it.
Thank you. Pastor Copeland, do you have a reply to this?
Just as the mayor stated, I wouldn't be in a position where I wouldn't be open to discuss this with the community, with our community leaders. As he stated, I don't foresee it right now where it's a real problem for the city of Milledgeville. However, we don't want to diminish our past, but as he stated, we want to be able to reflect on it and to move forward and not backwards. My truthful opinion on that right now is that all things have a place where they need to be in set time, and in museums, whether they become the relics of the past or something for us to look forward to engage in for the future. So as he stated, what I would do in terms would make sure that I get with the city council, the city manager, we discuss it, we take in the community's thoughts and opinions on it, but yet we will definitely make sure we are progressing forward and not backwards.
And Mayor Thoreau, you have a 1-minute rebuttal to that as well.
I think she's on track with what I'd said earlier. I mean, it's a sensitive issue, and it's an issue that we don't want to refight the Civil War again. We've learned from that situation, and we've gone forward. These are beautiful relics of art that have a place in this community, and I'm in favor of having a conversation at some point to discuss it. But at this point in time, I think we've got other important fish to fry. We've got kids that are having a hard time getting an education. We've got kids that are struggling trying to find the next meal. Whether we have a statue downtown or not probably doesn't make a difference to them.
Awesome. And this question is for Ms. Copeland. To be really prosperous, you need jobs that go beyond minimum wage service industries. What would you do as mayor to accelerate economic development and job creation in Milledgeville?
Well, at this time, the mayor has informed us on many occasions before that they're already looking at ways to bring in more industries. We know the water is a main issue for us here in the city of Milledgeville, and we have to first get that in place in order to make sure that we have larger industries coming back into our city. Over the last, I would say, 5-10 years, we've lost many jobs in the cities, and not just jobs, but career-oriented jobs that people could grab a hold to and raise their families off of. Although we are a college town, and that's something I share with people, we still have residents, as Mayor Thoreau has stated, from times of old when we were raised here, that people use these career opportunities to grow and foster Milledgeville. And it seems as though we don't have that anymore, but what I would do as a leading mayor is to continue to bring in more consultants, more industrial people to see how we can facilitate Milledgeville forward, because Milledgeville is a city within itself that we can open up on 2 different levels to make sure we move further and expand our city.
Mayor Thoreau, same question to you.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, economic development is always on the forefront of any decision that we make with the city. Last year we were able to communicate with the city and county, came together to build our mega site out on Highway 22, 1,700 acres, a big enough pad so they could have a super major industry, several smaller industries that had a rail access, had freeway access. I felt like it was a major accomplishment. It was one of the first times that I have the pleasure of discussing and negotiating with the county about putting something on the table that was going to benefit this community. So what that does is it puts us on the short list of people that are looking to come into to Georgia, people looking to come to the Southeast. You've got just kind of like setting the table. You've got the site. Now they come and take a look at us. Then we've got to sell Milledgeville. And so when we start selling Milledgeville, they want tax abatements. They want free water. They want free sewage. They want this, want that. How much are we willing to spend to get a job is the dilemma. And if they're willing to come. So we're competing not only with other communities, we're competing with the region, we're competing with the whole nation, and even the world. So we're trying to be proactive and try to put our people in the best position to sell Milledgeville.
And Pastor Copeland, you may rebuttal.
Well, one thing I would like to say in reference to what the mayor just stated was we do have to make sure we're setting ourselves apart from how we are marketing Milledgeville. And in doing that, I believe we're going to have to look more into our media, social media. We're going to have to expand that as well so that it goes out nationwide, all over the United States, because at the end of the day, that's what we need, people to look into Milledgeville in order for people to come into Milledgeville. As he shared, we are a large tourist place. I've worked with the trolley, I've driven the trolley, and had great times with many people coming from Japan, from Italy. So we know that we're on the cusp of making sure that Milledgeville expand with the fall line, with the rail system. It's just now putting into place planning and implementing and executing how we do it.
Thank you both for that. Mayor Thrower, just taking a spin around town, around Milledgeville, you can tell that there are many dilapidated homes, factories, many different places. As mayor, what would you do to alleviate this urban blight?
Well, we're making strides in that area. We're identifying the homes, contacting property owners, and trying to get remedies in place. It's a legal process that takes time and takes resources to accomplish. But we're somewhat hopeful that some of this blight is taken over by developers coming in wanting to bring new growth to this community. And we've had a tremendous amount of growth over the past couple of years, not because of anything I've done specifically, but because the council has acted proactively. We've got what some may consider too many student housing apartments that are in place today, and we're actually taking a look at our land use code to see if we can formulate a better game plan for how we place those units from in the future. But also we need housing for young professionals. We need office space downtown. We need more than anything. We need is parking, and then some of that blight can be, if we could find a way to get the right assemblage of property, to build a parking deck that would help Georgia College and Central City of Milledgeville.
Pastor Copeland, same question to you.
What I see, as the mayor just stated, is that we do need to remedy some of the housing issues that we're dealing with for the multifamily use housing from the residential use, because we do have seniors as well that would love to live in the downtown area, and that will be good exercise for them to be able to walk downtown, to be able to live downtown. At the same token, I do believe we can look at an expansion of moving our college students' housing out a little further. And that's going to take us coming across the lines, as he said, with the county in order to expand a little there. As a realtor, seeing different developers come in, we got to make sure that we're bringing in developers that's going to continue to work with the residential zoning, the historic zoning, the rules and the regulations for its multi-use homes and single-family use homes. So it's a whole spectrum that we have to consider. As he said, we also look to the council members who have done a great job of making sure that we adhere to the rules and regulations. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to fix or alleviate unresolved solutions.
Okay. Mayor Thrower, a reply to that?
As I stated, we've done everything we know to do to try to find a happy medium with the new development and trying to make the situation where the college and the city can peacefully coexist. And I've talked with Georgia College about some issues that college students create when they move into Milledgeville, and they've been most receptive to talk about remedies and solutions. We've talked to our code enforcement people, and trying to place more emphasis on enforcing those ordinances that are in place. But it's extremely important that we continue to find ways that we can live harmoniously in this community. We've got so much to offer.
Thank you.
Ms. Copeland, the average cost of Milledgeville housing is around $130,000. For many people in the community, that's out of reach. What is your plan to promote affordable housing in Milledgeville?
That's a great question for me. Being that I'm a realtor, I want to promote affordable housing, because one thing for sure, without the economy being boosted, without careers, great jobs in the city, we cannot offer low-income people to be able to afford affordable housing. That's going to take us being able to bring jobs back into our city, to give our citizens income to be able to afford houses, whether it's a low affordable home or where it's a home that's a little bit above the average range. At the end of the day, we want to put everyone into a home that they can afford, that they're going to be able to continue to stay in, that it won't turn over and they lose it. Much of you all know the housing recession that we went through 10 years ago now, that caused the whole market to just bottom out. And so what I would like to see is that we be able to bring in the education, be able to get people the jobs they need to be able to keep their homes and afford homes. And then at the same token, we got to work within the state lines that they carry down or bring down for us to be able to implement housing, affordable housing for our citizens.
Mayor Thorold, same question for you.
Well, it is imperative that the jobs are here to support the housing. I'm kind of scratching my head about your information on the $130,000 average home. That's I would think that would be a little inflated, but if you stand by it, that's good with me. But the Knight Foundation comes in from time to time and talks to us about how our community needs to progress, and one of the things that they really try to push is the fact that they want you to recruit talent, but then they want you to maintain talent. So we've done a remarkable job of recruiting talent, because we've got 3 schools of higher education here in town that are places that very well educated people want to come and continue their education. But we've had a hard time in the past of maintaining those individuals. They would love to stay in Millersville. They come to Millersville, they love it. They love the lakes, the rivers, the walking trails, the bike-friendly community. They love the old antebellum homes. They love everything about it, but they just can't find a job and stay. So, we've been fortunate of late to find a small IT company that came in that should we hope spark that interest in Milledgeville. But when I sat down and watched that smokestack dropped out at Lake Sinclair, I had worked there during the 70s, right out of high school, and it broke my heart for several reasons. I mean, it had a touch of my history, but it also had that's 500-600 great paying jobs, great benefits, retirement that we won't be getting back anytime soon. In my lifetime, we've seen jobs move away at much more rapid pace than we would like, and trying to recover from that is just about impossible. Like I say, the competition for jobs today is unbelievable. But all I know to do is continue the hope that we'll continue to fight for jobs, and we'll continue to put these authorities in the best possible position to secure these jobs. And with the jobs comes the housing.
And Ms. Copeland, your rebuttal?
I'm actually in agreement with the mayor on that. We just have to keep plugging in, keep working, keep bringing different consultants in to see how we can open up our job industries again to get the housing market back on track. And as you said, longevity here, both of us have been raised and reared here in Milledgeville. So we've seen a lot come and go. In the same token, even with the housing market, I can remember when houses was more than $130,000 and we paid a pretty penny for them. And then again, when the housing market flattened out, I can see how they went through selling homes over that people lost due to no jobs, couldn't afford to keep their homes. So, and then the market, it dropped. You could buy a home as much as $60,000, $70,000. Would love to see some of that come back for people that cannot afford a home that's $130,000, $160,000, to bring some homes into our area in that price range that will be more affordable for our citizens.
Thank you both. And we have a question from Facebook. A student from Georgia College asks, with the population of Georgia College and Milledgeville growing more each year and taxi services becoming less safe and reliable, why haven't transportation options like Uber or Lyft been implemented into our community? And would either candidate support trying to implement these resources? And if so, how would you do so? Mayor Thrower, we'll start with you.
Well, absolutely, I would support it. I believe that takes the entrepreneur to start that process. So I think someone has to run that Uber organization, and it's just probably not something the city can support. But the thing that I was really impressed with was when we were down at the GMA in Savannah, they had the bicycle taxis. And I thought that would be a great idea for Georgia College with the close proximity to college dormitories and the downtown district. But a lot of my friends have asked me about Uber, and I think Georgia College has implemented a program similar to that for Georgia College students and faculty. But as I mentioned, I think it's just going to take someone with a little entrepreneurial spirit to crank that thing up.
Mm-hmm. Pastor Copeland, same question to you.
Same thing. I feel the same way on that. However, it's been voiced to me, even with the college professors, that it's not enough parking, it's congested through the center of town. What are we going to do to alleviate all the traffic? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we're not large enough to have Ubers here, but yet the taxi or a bus system. And one thing you all are fortunate at Georgia College to have is that Georgia College does supply their own busing transportation. As the mayor said, I had someone to speak to me about the taxing, the bicycle taxing, having it set up that you can be able to come get your bicycle and ride through the city of Milledgeville, ride through the town. So I support that 100%, however we can get it done. But as you said, it's going to take an entrepreneurial spirit to come in and get that done. And then I think as we grow and in large numbers around here, the Ubers would definitely be a workable thing. Right now, we just got to work around what we have here and trying to get everybody from one place to another.
Okay. And Mayor Thrower, do you have a reply to that?
No, I mean, I think we've covered that. It's something we definitely need. She mentioned parking, and I think anybody that's been around council for the last couple of years has heard me, preaching and begging for somebody to give us an opportunity to build a parking deck and trying to find good solutions with that. I've mentioned it with Dr. Dorman. We've even discussed a private public partnership that we could put that together on a piece of property downtown that would. I've been to Athens a million times, and it seems like on every street corner there's a parking deck, and I just can't understand why we don't have a parking deck in Milledgeville at this point in time. It's something that we need to alleviate the problem, and we are looking into it. We're looking into it hard.
Thank you, guys. We now like to offer each candidate a opportunity to pose a question to the other. Pastor Copeland, we're going to start with you.
Oh, wow. Well, Mayor, I guess the question I want to know the most is the timeline. Where are we in timeline coming from the city council members, the city manager, as far as progressing towards our career opportunities? Because as we know right now, 5, 10, 20 years on down the road, Milledgeville will become a ghost town if we don't come up with a sooner solution. So I guess the question I want to pose is what guidelines or how are we working forward to in the next 2 years to making sure this is happening?
And what are you speaking to?
As far as the job situation, and I know you said we're working closely with everyone.
We are. We've talked about it. You talked about it today. We're doing everything we can to support our Economic Development Authority, and they're getting hits after hits on this new mega site. It's something exciting. We don't ever know when it may hit and what that may mean. I do know this: if we do land a big employer that comes in and wants to bring 5,000 jobs. First thing we've got to do is get water to the mega site. We've got to get sewer to the mega site, and that's a huge financial commitment. We've got to sell that to the county city council, sell it to the county commission, whoever, and sell it to the community. I mean, we've got to make a huge investment if we are lucky enough to land an industry. But we're so fortunate to have not only the downtown, not the downtown, but the Baldwin County Milledgeville Development Authority, but we also have the Central State Hospital Redevelopment Authority, and they are, working miracles out there with regard to job growth. I think we've already had nearly 300 I think, jobs that have been created in the last couple of years. There's a opportunity on the near horizon that look like it may be another 400 or 500 jobs, and that business may spur into several others. So Central State Hospital may be on the cusp of becoming its own little community again, and we've just been so excited about what they've been able to do, and we've been trying to support both. I think in the very near future they're going to be self-sustaining.
And Mayor Thrower, your opportunity to ask Pastor Copeland a question.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't either I didn't get the email or I didn't get the heads up that I looked at the format. But
Good job,
I didn't. I don't particularly have anything definite I need to ask Mayor Copeland, but I would just ask. Do you know what you're getting into?
Fortunately, I do believe so. When I look around the town, yes, sir, I do believe so. And I'm thankful for you paving the way. That if I get in here and I'm elected, that I can take and pull from some of the experiences that you're sharing with me
Good
today.
deal.
We want to thank the candidates for taking the time to meet and address issues of concern to the voters of Milledgeville.
We hope this mayoral debate will help you decide whether to give Mayor Thrower a second term or elect Mary Parham-Copela in his place.
GC360 will post the debate on our website, gc360news.com, and on all of our social media platforms. And remember to tune in for our replay times at noon, 5 p.m., and 9 p.m. For GC360, I'm Jamie Hood.
And representing the Colonnade, I'm Stephen Walters.
Thank you, guys.